helping you find your new way forward to the best years of your life. This is a New Way Forward vodcast with your host, Paul Long.
You're good enough. In fact, you're more than good enough. Now, I'm not being airy-fairy here. You're wonderful. You're perfect as you are. I'm dead serious. I don't even know you probably, but I know the human condition. I know what I have studied over the years trying to find my own new way forward, to optimize myself, be the best that I can possibly be for you and in my life. And I realized that I didn't think I was good enough. This is also known as the imposter syndrome. And virtually every single human being on this earth today and throughout human history has suffered from it. Billions of people have been held back because they didn't think that they were good enough. This is a psychosomatic condition. You know what psychosomatic means? Meaning it's all in your head. Typically it's an illness or a pain or something that's all mental. Well, this is a psychosomatic condition. The imposter syndrome, as it's known, which basically means I'm not good enough, or I'm a failure, or I'm going to screw things up, or I'm not capable, or I'm not worthy, or whatever. And none of that is true. In fact, in studying this and also studying other things like highly successful people in life, not just the famous, but the not so famous, but people who are having successful lives, many of them had the imposter syndrome or didn't feel that they were good enough. Now, for highly successful people, that sometimes was a major driver, and I know some of them. People who I admire, the things about them that I envy, and they think they are an unflushed turd in life. And it pisses me off because I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you see how good you are? Do you see how talented you are, capable, worthy you are? And that drives them because they're afraid, you know, if I fall back, if I don't accomplish this, people are going to find out who I am. Well, no, we already know who you are. You're exceptional. And at the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are stuck in life because they don't think they're good enough.
We interrupt this video for something that I forgot to mention when I originally recorded it. And that deals with people who are in extreme circumstances or have disabilities. And I honor that. What I also think of is how many people who are in those extreme circumstances or grew up in them or have severe disabilities that we know about, who have elevated themselves and others by knowing that they were good enough to elevate their lives despite or even because of those circumstances and disabilities. I know that they're an inspiration, and it tells me that there's something for everybody there. And I appreciate it because I know that their stories inspire me, and it also makes me think, I don't have a disability and I don't have an extreme circumstance. So therefore, I don't have any excuses to realize that I'm good enough.
The fact of the matter is that we are all good enough in each and every possible way that is appropriate for us. Am I good enough to play middle linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys? No. But there are other things, you know, they always say, oh, there's that ideal thing in life for you. There's several ideal things in life for you. But many of us either don't go after it because we don't think we're good enough, or we can't enjoy it and feel good about ourselves because we don't think we're worthy. We don't think we're good enough. And we think that some people are going to identify us as imposters. Well, the good news is this is all crap. Because I heard Deepak Chopra once on a talk that he gave. And it's what he said about his children and the way he and his wife raised them. And from a young age, they said, you know, it wasn't about you got to make straight A's, you got to be the captain of the football team, you got to, be valedictorian or any of that kind of stuff. It was that There is something out there that you're the best in the world for. And it could be anything. Because I know the context of these kinds of things I'm talking about is always like, you can be a CEO, you can be, you can be a great anything that's right and aligned for you. But the imposter syndrome is either going to, help you accomplish it, but you're going to be miserable and scared the whole time, or it's going to leave you stuck. Is that the way any of us really want to live our lives? My big thing is that even necessary to do that? Where does this come from? Oh, wait, before where does it come from? I'm going to give you some help on this on the back end of it, on how to realize you're good enough and get over the imposter syndrome. Thank you. All right. Where does this come from? Very often this comes from childhood. So one of the biggest things I learned when I was dealing with this recently was that so many of us are driven by beliefs about ourselves that aren't true. There are a couple of sources for this. One is society and how we feel about other people. I'll get into that in just a moment. But a big thing is it comes from childhood. Very often, the way our parents were, the way our situation was, or the things that our parents said to us. So for instance, I know so many successful people who don't feel they're good enough despite their amazing accomplishments and things that they're going after. Because maybe they had a parent who they came home and they were, having a really tough time in algebra or something, and they got a B+. And their parents like, well, that's good. If you had worked harder, you could have made an A+. I mean, especially to a kid or any of us, that is deflating. You're not good enough. That's not good enough. When a lot of us would say, well, good for you. Keep it up. Or it's maybe the way our parents were about themselves and their lives or our situations. I know that when I was trying to figure out my new way forward in life a few years ago, I realized that throughout my life, something had held me back. It held me back as a person and in my relationships. It happened when I was a television newsman. It happened when I was a content creator. I was a hell of a good friend. I was a hell of a great reporter. I was a hell of a great content creator, and I know it. But there was something in me, this is so weird, it's really hard for me to admit. I almost felt like people were doing me a favor. I almost felt like somebody was doing me a favor by being my friend, that the television station that hired me as a newsman was doing me a favor, that my client, by hiring me and paying me, was doing me for a favor. That it was this, almost not in your conscious brain, but back thing that was just there all the time, pushing me down. It took me for a while to identify it, and I identified why that was. And that's a long story I won't go into now. But in my formative years, as a little kid and in elementary school, my situation, I realized, is where that came from. But here's the deal. Like undoubtedly you and all of us, here's what that does to you. Okay, so we have this belief. And I had this deep-seated belief that everybody was doing me a favor, or this belief that I'm not good enough, or this belief that I can't hold on to money, or this belief that I can't stay in a relationship, or I'll never attract a partner, whatever. There are millions of them. That belief, by definition, we believe to be true, even if it's not. Here are the consequences. Here's a basic formula. This is how life and us works. We have a belief. That belief drives our emotions. Our emotions drive our decisions. Our decisions drive our actions. And that equals who you are and what you have in life right now. And the thing of it is that when it's this negative belief, you get a negative outcome. Oh, that validates that belief. and it's a vicious circle. But when you realize that that belief is BS, it's not true, or it's no longer true, and you change it, then you have better emotions that drive better decisions, that drive better actions, that get validated in a positive way. The same thing for when people get stuck and they just don't think that they're comparable or capable to handle success or achieve success. And very often, besides parents, that can come from external sources too, in either way. I want to read a quote from an article Dan Peterson wrote in Medium. We think about all the times we've been criticized, judged, ridiculed, rejected, abandoned, compared to others, and we imagine that this is how most people think of us currently and will continue to think of us unless we change into what we think they will admire. He ends with, the truth is, most people are wrong about you, and you are wrong about how most people perceive you. With the way some of our friends and acquaintances and family members are, and certainly with the way marketing is and society's expectations in general, it's very easy to understand this. But once you understand that you are more than good enough for certain things in your life, and that there are things in your life, in all aspects of your life, that you're more than good enough for, and those are the things that are right for you and true to you, I don't know about you, but that is incredibly freeing to me. Of course, then I get to the point going, okay, well, how do I shift this? How do I shift this? Well, one thing is new way forward. So when I was realizing all of this stuff, plus what do I really want to do with the rest of my life, and have it aligned with who I am and what I will find fulfilling and rewarding and give me purpose and meaning, this is when I dove into all of this stuff and came up with my answer, which is this, new way forward. But I realized I had to get rid of this imposter syndrome if I was going to make it a true success for me in all of the respects, not just, a lot of viewers and a lot of followers and income to run it and pay the bills and such. I needed to turn this around. I needed to get past that belief that I wasn't good enough, or else I wasn't going to succeed. And by the way, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not totally there yet, but I'm working on it. And I am vastly farther than I used to be, to the point where I don't really feel like it's a problem as much as it's an annoyance. So here are a few things to start thinking about. And what I did, basically, and I culled this from all sorts of different sources. Some things are, write a journal every day, talk about the things that you're really great at and that you're really grateful for. Okay, I said that in a dismissive way, because that's usually the way we respond to that, but it's not dismissive. So one of the things is I actually sat down and started making a list, unabashed, didn't have to share it with anybody, of all the things that I thought I was actually exceptional at doing. This did two things for me. One, in finding my new way forward, it really helped me think about, okay, here's where I'm strong, here's what's very meaningful to me, and here's what I like. I was getting all of that in my head rather than just doing a list of, based on my skills and my experience, what could I do? What sounds fun? What sounds nice? No. What's right for me? What's meaningful to me? Where am I exceptional? Because where you're exceptional is not just a talent or a skill, it's also where an interest lies. It's also something that is meaningful for you. I could be really good digging ditches, but that's not right for me, right? And I'm not putting down people who dig ditches. I admire the hell out of them. Okay. So I started writing down all of these good things about me, and I spent a week every morning with my finger. By the way, writing things down, reticular activating system in your brain really helps burn it into your brain, and reading it out loud and actually following it with your finger, that's just a little trick, but it really works. I think it was the University of Indiana, I could be wrong, did a study. There have been several studies out there that say people who write down goals are 40 some odd % more likely to achieve them when they write them down and do what I just described to you. So anyway, I wrote all of those down. And then the second thing is I made a conscious effort. I kind of made a note to myself every morning, or, that popped up on my phone, to note all the negative self-talk. Now, again, this isn't some airy-fairy kind of thing, because there are numbers pushed out there that thousands or 50,000 thoughts that we have a day are negative and are the same. Those numbers are dubious. But the point isn't that we spend most of our day in negative thought about ourselves, certainly about other situations, but I'm just talking about us. It can be as simple as yesterday I noted it, that I came upstairs to heat up some tea, but I got lost in my thought thinking about this very thing here. And I went downstairs and I didn't, and I'm like, oh, Paul, you're such a putz. You forgot. That's a little negative thought. But what you will find when you start putting your attention on it, what you will be amazed by is how many times a day you have this negative thought about yourself, for little things and for big things, in reactions that you have, in planning something and figuring something out. Once you get going, where attention goes, focus flows. You think about buying a yellow Mustang, all of a sudden you see yellow Mustangs all over the place. That's that reticular activating system again. When you put your focus on it, you start noticing it. And you may not think it's the case. I dare you to try this, because you'll be stunned at how much negative self-talk that you have, how much I'm not good enough comparative thinking that you have. Identifying this, realizing this about yourself, is 80% of the battle. Because all of a sudden, what I started doing was catching myself. I almost felt like my alter ego was just standing there, just waiting for me to have this next thought and kind of going, hey, no. Stop and think about how good you are at that. Stop and think about what a good father and companion you are. Start thinking about, whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden I started doing that. I started appreciating who I am and what I offer. And whether you're aspiring to something big or little, it may be in comparative terms little, but to you it's big. When you realize how right you are for it and how right it is for you, and you appreciate it, that's when a lot of magical things happen, which, by the way, flows into the next thing, gratitude. How often do you really express gratitude in your life? How often are you being consciously grateful for something? It can be something big that happens, or for the relationships that you have with friends and families. Or it can be something ridiculously simple, in that it's cold outside and I'm in a warm home. I can go over here and turn on the tap and have clean water. I mean, that may sound like, well, duh, Paul, but here's the point. And I heard this from somebody, and it's absolutely true, and it changed my life for the better. You cannot be unhappy when you're being grateful. And all of a sudden, I not only started putting conscious effort into being grateful for things, I noticed that I just started doing it automatically. I noticed that my happiness and my satisfaction in life quotient went up. I also know, and I've heard this time and time again, that if you can't be happy now, when you get to that point that so often we say, oh, I'll be happy when, or I'll really be able to enjoy life when, or I'll really be at whatever. That's BS. Because in the first place, you may not get there, or it may turn into something else. Or like me, I get to that point. I'm not even thinking about that point anymore. I'm already looking at the next one. But also, too, if you can't learn how to be happy now, you're not going to be able to be happy and grateful when you get there. But going back to the imposter syndrome, when you start being grateful for who you are and what you've accomplished in life, how far you've gotten in life, the great things that you have done in life, then all of a sudden that imposter syndrome starts to wither and die. I imagine it is this little ugly monster, in my head that's right now on life support because it's been withering and dying because my attitude has changed against it. So realize that virtually everyone you can lay eyes on is suffering from some aspect of the imposter syndrome. Realize that it's untrue for them like it is untrue for you, that it is an insidious psychosomatic condition that all of us suffer from. But the difference between those people who are successful in life, not just in business or other types of accomplishment, but that those people who have a successful life, what is a successful life? It's something that makes you happy, that's healthy, that's satisfying, and that's gratifying. That those people who are the most successful at living that kind of life, which is irrespective of their financial situation, what they're doing, are the ones that have gotten past the imposter syndrome and know and live that they're good enough. In fact, they're more good enough at the life they and only they are living.